I went back to my friend's house that night and slept on the couch, slept on the floor. Next day went back to the ashram, and his desk was in the back room there. And he invited people to come and spend time in his company. He was, again, coming to us where we were at so we could feel his free state. And by the attraction to his free state, want to be involved and grow and understand and start the ashram in recognition of him. So he invited people to come and sit with him at his desk. Sometimes he would just talk about the ordeal of growing up. Difficulties he went through as a kid. Funny things that happen, difficult things that happen. It's kind of like you and I hanging out, have a beer and talk about life, right? Or not even have a beer, talk about life, right? It was kind of like that. It was an opportunity to just be comfortable in his company. Not to call him holy. And he would talk about one time he went out into the field and there was a beautiful cow there and he wanted to go pat the cow. But as he got really close to the cow, he found out it was a bull and he started snorting and scraping his feet. And so he turned and the bull started chasing after him. And he ran as fast as he could and just made it over the fence before the bull would have gouged him or hurt him, right? Another time, and he's laughing while he's telling the story. Another time, he was on a horseback riding and he's going back towards the stable and the horse didn't want him on the back. So when the horse saw the stable where the door to the stable was really low, the horse started going faster, thinking to knock him right off. So Franklin had to jump underneath the horse, or hold on underneath the horse's neck to get through the doorway. Yeah? And he said there are other stories, funny stories, where one day he said to his mother, "Are there any desserts today?" And she said, "Well, I made tapioca pudding." And he goes, "Oh, tapioca pudding, that's my favorite. And where is it?" And she said, "It's over here on the stove." And so he picked it up and he started dancing around the room, tapioca pudding, and then he slipped and fell and threw the bowl up in the air accidentally and smashed. And tapioca pudding hit the whole ground and the walls. And he fell down rolling in tapioca pudding. And his mother told me that story herself. And she said it was the funniest day of her life. To see somebody so free, so silly, so rolling in a pudding on the floor and roaring with laughter. He was roaring with laughter. Couldn't stop. Huh? And so she's telling us those kind of stories. You like him. It was about liking him and trusting him. He wasn't the kind of person that was going to turn something back on you. You could open up. You could relax. You could feel free in his company. You could trust that, that was all he wanted to show. That part of his enlightened state. Other times, he'd invite those that could come. And then he's sitting at his desk. We're just hanging around him, right? He said that he'd talk about his spiritual teachers. Because we all talked in the knee of listening, where he was born into this conscious state. He called the bright. And then at 2 years old, he took on the human condition so he could live the egoic human condition and understand it perfectly so that he could explain it and translate it and communicate it in great detail to those that would want to know that at some point. Then he re-awakened into his enlightened state with full knowledge of the whole story. But in that time when he was taking on the human condition, he had a lot of teachers. And he started praising these men. I mean, he was overwhelmingly expressing how much love he had for these men. They were not equal to his realization. But tears were pouring out of his eyes of the love for these beings who served him, who served other beings as well. And it made us feel he's not afraid to express his emotions. He's really vulnerable. He's really open. He's really able to cry with love. That was a touching feeling that this being is not like most of us. Not defensive, not protected, not, but wide open. And that wide openness made us, whoa, I want to be in his company more often. I want to understand him more. What is he, how's he doing this? What's this all about? Other times, he said to us, "Tell me your heart-breaking stories. Tell me the stories of your life that hurt you so bad that you never want to feel that again. You don't want to go back there. It's a wound of the heart. And you have found ways to defend yourself and protect yourself and avoid never feeling that or anything about like that again. If you can feel that. And we said, no. We don't go there. We don't talk about that kind of stuff. And he goes, no, you're with me. Confess those stories. Let me feel your stories. Huh? So we would open up a little bit and start talking about the heartbreaks. I mean, the real heartbreaks. Huh? And something very unique happened. If I tell you a story, you will respond as you feel the story. He wasn't doing that, though. He was living the story with us. So as we got emotional, he was emotional at the same time. Not as a result, but at the same time. And when we started crying because of the tragedy that happened and feeling it, he was crying at the same time. And it made us feel that which we were living alone as our heartbreak was actually now being lived by him with us. And it softened something about our unique identity with that sorrow. That was a really big point, that he was showing us that he wasn't separate. He was actually living it with us at the same time, because he wasn't separate from us in this conscious reality. And then he say, the way you received what you received in that tragic, heartbreaking circumstance was because of where you were at the time. But you could have received it differently. And with his full influence, he would show us another way to have accepted what had happened from a whole other feeling way that we didn't even feel before. And he brought us into the feeling of that other way that would make it much more acceptable than the way we actually felt it and recognized it. And it softened it again. It softened the burden of life that we carry again. And then he said, but you're with me now. Give me all your suffering. Give me all your seeking. Give me all your tragedy. Give me all your heartbreak. I'll take it, I'll chew it up, I'll spit it out and bring you love. And every time we would leave the back room of the Melrose Avenue ashram, we would feel light, free, uncomplicated, unburdened. Stresses, ordeals, heartbreaks were relaxed, they were softened. I have always felt the back room of the Melrose Avenue ashram was one of the greatest temples of all time in the whole world. There was nothing holy about it. There was nothing formal about it. It was human communications of enlightened being awakening and releasing the burdens of ordinary people. He also said this about it. That's what's so great about these stories. They're true and they're heartbreaking. He said, you come to me for another consolation to prevent awareness of your suffering. You come for distractions, a fascination, a charming vision. You want to be consoled. But why do you want to be consoled? What state are you in that should want to be consoled by me? You are suffering, yes? Since you are only suffering, why are you defending all this nonsense? It is time to be rid of all of it. It is utterly unnecessary. It can be abandoned. All of that is what I want surrendered as gifts around my feet. I want to see your gift to me of all your suffering, all your sorrows, all your long faces, all your usual yoga, all the visions, all the beliefs, all the philosophies, all the conventional religious and spirituality, all your personal and even racial history. I want to see your attachment to birth and your fear of death. I want to feel all of it. Such are the implications of truth. So the entire identity of a separate entity, the entire identity of a separate person is what he is here to release. I loved going into the back room of the Melrose Avenue ashram. It was absolutely perfect and human and real.